Try a new day.
Try NuTriDay. Now here with all your wellness advice is your host, Lindsey Day.
More than 2,000 years ago, the ancient philosopher Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. The more research that comes out these days, the more we realize he was kind of right. If we would have just listened to him all along, we would have saved ourselves a lot of trouble. We actually have trillions of bacteria that live in our gut. And what's even crazier is the types and amounts of these bacteria are determining pretty much our whole health picture, from our body fat levels to whether or not we develop disease. So basically, yeah, these little bugs in our gut are controlling our health. Sounds like some crazy sci-fi premise, but it's actually the truth. You can think of your gut as like a garden. In a garden, we have flowers and sometimes we have weeds. When the weeds overtake the flowers, then we've got a problem. Similarly, in our gut, we have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria, which in this analogy is like the weeds. Good bacteria are like the flowers. You will feel it if these levels become imbalanced. We actually have a term for it called dysbiosis. When we say gut, we're actually referring to our intestines. Your stomach is up here. When people say, I have a stomach ache, and they hold right here, they actually mean they have an intestine ache. But if you say, I have an intestine ache, people will kind of look at you funny. So we'll stick with stomach ache. Let's talk about what happens when Susie eats an apple. You take a bite of an apple. As soon as food hits your mouth, especially carbohydrates, we have enzymes in our mouth that begin digesting those foods. Then the food goes down the esophagus, hits the stomach, into the small intestine, which is like this crazy amount of tubing, and then it hits the large intestine, and then it goes out the other end. Did you know that it actually takes anywhere between 12 to 48 hours for food to go in one end and out the other? A lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, I ate something that didn't agree with me and it went right through me. Technically, that's not how it works. What actually happens is if you eat something that upsets your stomach, whatever's been sitting down there is actually what leaves. So yeah, 12 to 48 hours is the time it takes for food to go in one end and out the other. And yes, we are gonna become close friends today because we're talking toilet talk. It's really important though. I ask all of my clients about their bathroom habits because it says so much about our health. We actually need to be pooping every day for our health to be functioning properly, because that's our body's way of detoxing. So if you're not pooping, then basically what happens is toxins are getting reabsorbed into your system through your intestines, and things like cholesterol get reabsorbed. We absorb most of our food in our small intestines. Our pancreas actually dumps a whole bunch of enzymes into the small intestines to allow digestion to happen. This is critical because this begins the process of allowing vitamins and minerals to be absorbed into the body. So the health of our intestines is so key to make sure that we are absorbing these vitamins and minerals. An analogy that I always like to give, because I think it really helps to understand, imagine you had a lighter with no lighter fluid. The lighter wouldn't light up. And that's analogous to our body not having the vitamins and minerals to tick. So in this analogy, the vitamins and minerals are like the lighter fluid, and things lighting up, you could think about your brain lighting up, or different systems of the body functioning, is essentially what we're talking about here. We need vitamins and minerals to make all of these biological processes tick. And if you don't have the proper vitamins and minerals in the proper amount, you won't feel good. We could do a long video talking about the importance of what vitamins and minerals play what role in the body, but just to give you a very basic appreciation, there are many B vitamins, but B vitamins are essential for allowing metabolism to work. They play a huge role in the Krebs cycle and in the production of ATP, which is known as energy. It's our body's energy currency. B vitamins are also really important for forming certain neurotransmitters. You might have heard of serotonin and dopamine, and these are things that help us to feel good and happy and motivated. And if we don't have the proper B vitamins in the proper levels, then these neurotransmitters won't form, right? And you won't feel happy and motivated. You can think of vitamin D. So many cells in our body have receptors for vitamin D. As a matter of fact, doctors call it hormone D sometimes because it behaves more like a hormone in the body. It has super critical roles for our immune system. Yes, it's known for improving bone health, but there's so much more than that. You've heard of seasonal affective disorder. That's basically when you don't get enough sunlight, your body doesn't produce the vitamin D it needs, and you get all sad and depressed. So vitamin D can lead to depression. Well, a lack of vitamin D can lead to depression. And then think about iodine. So a lot of times they add iodine to salt, but you can get it naturally in different seafood. And iodine is so critical because it is literally the component of our thyroid hormone. And our thyroid hormone is made of a molecule of iodine and tyrosine, which is an amino acid that is found in protein. So basically the takeaway here is that each vitamin and mineral has a critical role in the body, and we need our digestive system to be working properly. We need the gut bacteria to be in the proper levels in order for us to be able to absorb and assimilate all of these key vitamins and minerals. That leads me to my next point. As you probably would have guessed, we don't find these vitamins and minerals in pizza, Dunkaroos, Gushers. Do you remember those? When I was a kid, I used to eat those all the time. Those bring back memories. But we find those vitamins and minerals in whole foods. Fruits, vegetables, potatoes, meats, nuts, seeds, quinoa, healthy grains, healthy fats, olive oil, avocados. That's where we're gonna find an abundance of these micronutrients. We call those whole foods that I just listed micronutrient dense foods. We call the Dunkaroos and the pizza calorically empty foods. Another really important point. Did you know that you actually should be chewing your food 15 to 20 times per bite? At least that's what some experts recommend. Of course, it's gonna depend on the consistency of your food. So like if it's soup, obviously you're not gonna chew that. If it's like mashed potatoes, you're not gonna chew that 20 times. That's a little silly. But if it's something like steak or that's tougher to bite and chew into, then yeah, you should be chewing it until it's like a paste in your mouth. And this is something I used to really mess up on a lot. I used to just gobble my food down, always in a rush, and that actually contributed to a lot of problems for me. If you're not chewing your food to turn it into a paste, then basically what's gonna happen is your body's not gonna be able to extract the vitamins and minerals it needs from that food. It could lead to fatigue, it could lead to digestive issues because some of that food that's not being absorbed and broken down properly will then make it down into lower parts of your digestive system undigested, and it serves as food for some of the bad bacteria to feed on. And this is one way how we actually get dysbiosis and SIBO. Some of you might have heard of that. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on SIBO, so you can check my channel for that. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put a link in the description below so that you can access this video. I think this is a super important video for many people to watch because many people have some degree of this and they have no idea. But it is so important that we are chewing our food until it turns into a paste before swallowing, and that we are eating in a relaxed state. Because did you know that for your enzymes to be able to be released properly, we actually need to be in more of like a rest and digest state. That means if you're super stressed and you're sitting down to eat, your body's not gonna release the enzymes that it actually needs to break down the food properly. Then you get some of that undigested food further down in the intestine, and then you get the problems like the SIBO, the gas, the bloating, the fatigue, the lack of absorption of certain vitamins and minerals. You see where I'm going here? Yes, everything is all connected. Now, this is a very important note, and if you happen to be one of the people that I'm about to describe, I highly recommend that you watch the video on SIBO in the description box. Acid reflux medication and proton pump inhibitors and H2 blockers, those are notorious for causing digestive problems in SIBO. And I know a lot of people take them in Tums and things like that. Anything that's shutting down the acid production of your stomach, like if you have acid reflux and you're taking medicine for it, that's shutting down your stomach acid production. People don't realize how dangerous this can be if taken long term. When the stomach acid gets shut down, your body cannot digest protein properly because you need a very acidic environment for that protein to break up. So then you get undigested protein going down further into the gut, into the intestines, and that is very well known for creating an overgrowth of some of these bad pathogenic bacteria, creating the dysbiosis and destroying people's health in some cases. But another thing about these acid reflux medications is we actually need hydrochloric acid to be able to absorb B12. We need it to be able to release proteins and amino acids. Now, of course, you have to work with your doctor to see if the pros of these medicines outweigh the cons, because with all medicines, usually they come with side effects, and sometimes the pros of the medicine outweigh the cons of the side effects. And that's always a decision for you and your doctor to make. All right, when people ask me, what's the one thing I can do to improve my health? Without a question, the number one thing that I work on with my clients is, are you eating at least 25 grams of fiber per day? 25 to 45 grams is a great ballpark. I'm not talking about slamming back fiber shakes all day or eating those Fiber One bars that have like these fake forms of fiber. I'm talking about getting fiber in its whole food form. Fruits, vegetables. Vegetables are probably the best source of fiber. Quinoa, healthy carbs like that, sweet potatoes, lentils, seeds, nuts. Those are our fiber sources that we want to stick to. Things like canned pumpkin. I mean, the list goes on, but you probably can have an idea of what foods have fiber. It's like that tough part of the plant cell wall. That is so critical for our health. I could give you so many reasons why, but I'm gonna give you my top 5 reasons why you wanna up your fiber game. Number 1, fiber highly influences our gut microbiota profile. All of those bacteria that live in your gut. If you're eating whole food forms of fiber, the research has shown pretty convincingly that that leads to a very favorable profile. Remember, it's the number and the types of different bacterial species that's controlling our health, our weight, our energy, whether or not we develop disease. That's key. And we can allow a more favorable profile, stave off disease, and be at a healthy body weight if we're allowing those good bacteria to flourish. And we do that by eating fiber. What I'm gonna tell you might sound a little strange, but I think it's gonna drive the point home. There's a new phenomenon, we'll call it a new technique. It's called a fecal transplant. You're thinking of fecal what? Yeah. Basically, it's what you think it is. They take the poop of a healthy person, they inject it up the butt of someone that's not healthy. And what they find is that it can actually totally flip-flop that unhealthy person's health. They've used this to treat several different diseases, and even in weight loss, they're even running trials and experiments with that now, and they are having success with it. It's in the beginning stages, but the takeaway is that when you insert a new bacterial profile into someone that has a disease state, many times it can actually clear up with this healthy level of bacteria in their gut. Crazy. Now, we can highly influence our gut bacteria by what we're eating. They also have found pretty clearly in research that when someone is eating a Western style diet, they have a very unfavorable gut profile that leads to disease states. What's a Western diet? Well, it's what you might think of as a normal American diet. So lots of fast food, lots of processed food. Honestly, there are people that I've seen that think that they're eating healthy, but it's actually not much better than going and eating McDonald's every day because they're just eating a bunch of packaged processed foods. I've even seen people that are vegetarian fall into this category because they're just getting like fake versions, fake foods that have that vegetarian label on it. Or even keto, I mean any kind of diet, even paleo, any kind of a diet. If you're eating processed foods with inflammatory oils, high in sugar, low in plant-based foods that have rich phytochemicals and micronutrients in them, then you will likely develop dysbiosis over time and end up running into some health problems down the road. Number 2, when our good bacteria feed on these fibers, they produce what are called short-chain fatty acids. It's kind of a long, fancy term. You might see it in research as SCFA, but this is so key because these short-chain fatty acids help to regenerate our brain, diminish brain degeneration, And they can help in the formation of neurotransmitters, those things like serotonin and dopamine and other brain chemicals that help us to feel happy and motivated. So yes, if you have a diet low in fiber, then that can lead to depressed states. Everything is connected. Number 3, as I alluded to earlier, fiber binds to cholesterol and eliminates it when you poop. So if you want to lower your cholesterol, eat more fiber. Number 4, fiber really helps with weight loss. It helps you to feel satiated, which means you feel more full, and it can prevent cravings for the bad stuff. I always think whenever someone says, oh my gosh, I wish I could lose weight, but I crave certain foods, I get so hungry and I don't want to go around feeling hungry all the time. Well, if you eat more fiber, that can really solve that problem. And 5, a diversity of plant-based fibers is key. Researchers find that when diets are too restrictive, that some of the good bacteria in our gut die off. And so if you're eating the same dang thing day after day, I highly encourage you to try to switch it up. I know I'm guilty of this a lot because I'm a creature of habit. So something that I try to do is when I go to the grocery store, I give myself a challenge. Just buy one new thing that maybe you've never tried before or you haven't tried in a long time. And of course, I'm talking about some kind of a plant-based food. So that could be like beetroots or jicama or turnips or some kind of weird leafy green. A lot of times I try to make things taste good, but every once in a while I'm like, let me get some dandelion greens this week. They taste horrible, but they're so good for you. So just switching it up is really important. Now the question is, how do you know if you're hitting those 25 to 45 grams of fiber? I'm glad you asked. A cup of broccoli might have about 4 grams of fiber. Half a cup of cooked quinoa has about 3 to 4 grams of fiber, give or take. Another thing I highly recommend that you do is track your food in a free app like MyFitnessPal. This is something that I highly encourage my clients to do. Not every day. You don't have to think, oh my gosh, I gotta track my food every day. No, you might not have time for that, and that's okay. And also, tracking can be triggering for some people. So like if you had an unhealthy relationship with food or still have an unhealthy relationship with food, sometimes tracking is not the way to go, but you decide if you want to try tracking once a week or just, I love using tracking as a learning tool. So you can track a whole day's worth of food and see how many grams of fiber you get. I'm telling you, it's an eye-opening experience because when I take my clients through this, they usually find 2 things. They are falling short on fiber, they are falling short on protein. Oh, and a third thing is when people are trying to be good on their diets, they usually severely undereat their calories, which just sets them up for a binge day later. So usually when I start tracking with my clients, they are very pleasantly surprised that they can eat way more food than they thought they could and still reach their goals. Because when you're eating high fiber foods, they're not that calorie dense. So you have to eat such a large volume of foods, especially fiber containing foods, to equate to the amount of food that's in like a fast food burger, as an example. All right, I am going to do a part 2 of this video talking all about SIBO. If you have digestive issues or acne or brain fog, I mean, the list goes on as to some of the symptoms that SIBO can create, but I highly recommend that you check that video out. Again, it's in the description link below. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could give this video a thumbs up, if you could subscribe to my channel, I send that same love back to you, and it would really help me in creating more content. Thanks.